Oftentimes when we find ourselves wanting to achieve some sort of lifestyle, health, or spiritual goal, or make some sort of positive shift or transformation in our life, we find ourselves in kind of a weird double bind. Meaning on one hand, we feel a lot of excitement and joy and anticipation for the thing that we're wanting to achieve or the change that we're wanting to make. But then on the other hand, we feel a sense of sort of dread and real heaviness when we think about the things we're going to have to do, the changes we're going to have to make, the shifts we're going to have to make in order to achieve that thing. And I think this occurs because most health or spiritual or lifestyle approaches and strategies and paradigms are presented in a very staunch, kind of rigid, almost very anal retentive kind of a way. What I mean by that is they say, you must do this or else, you must eat only these foods or else your pH will fall into this certain zone and then your body will be overrun with cancer, or you must be a vegan because X and Y will happen, or you must meditate 4 hours a day or else you'll never be enlightened. And those are just a few examples, but basically the point they're making is that these approaches, whether they're health, lifestyle, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever, they basically say you have to do only this thing or else this bad thing will happen or else you won't get this good thing. And really there's a problem with that because it really contradicts basic, obvious, and fundamental truths about reality. So what I mean by that is basically something which is very hard, rigid, and inflexible really won't survive or have longevity, whereas something that is flexible, fluid, and adaptable will have true longevity. And to illustrate this, it's a really easy way to understand it is basically look at an oak tree versus a bamboo tree and basically look how they function in a windstorm. So we have the oak tree and we have this massive windstorm going on, and we see the oak tree is very hard and it's very rigid. Thus, it's not really going to be able to be flexible and adaptable to that wind, so it's very likely that it's going to be damaged or even completely destroyed by that windstorm. But then on the other hand, we look at the bamboo tree and we see that it's very flexible and fluid and adaptable, so it's very likely that it's going to survive and adapt to that windstorm and not be harmed and not be destroyed. So then in that metaphor, that windstorm is our life, and the oak tree and the bamboo tree is really the choice up to us as far as what approach we want to take and what sort of principle we want to align with. And from that example, we can see again, something which is very hard, rigid, and inflexible is not really going to have longevity, whereas something which is flexible and fluid and adaptable will actually have longevity. And to me, that's the reason why on one hand we feel excited because we want the thing, and on the other hand we feel sort of like, oh man, I have to do all this stuff, it's going to suck, it's going to be hard, I have to do this, I can't do that, because the things that we're given are for these very rigid sort of inflexible patterns, which again, as we've seen and understand, and I'm sure you can understand now, that they don't have longevity, hence they feel inherently bad within us. So really, obviously, what is the solution there, and what is, the better alternative? Number one is to obviously look for not rigid little boxes and paradigms, but sets of fluid, simple principles which we can then understand and apply to various situations. Because life is a lot more complex and active and dynamic than what we find when we write things down on paper. So we might have an equation or a strategy or paradigm that sounds really good on paper, but in real life may not be very practical. For example, very rigid dietary programs, make sense if we, just live in this little bubble or this box, but what happens when we want to be social? We want to go out to eat, we want to go to family events, we want to go to social events, parties, or we go to a work event, or maybe we have some sort of economic thing that we're going through, we can't afford X and Y. So basically that sets us up to sort of feel, oh man, I'm not going to be able to do this, I'm going to get this, and this is going to happen, and it's so bad. And rather than saying, okay, well, what are these principles that I have that are fluid and flexible and adaptable that can allow me to be fluid, flexible, and adaptable and do the best that I can in any given situation? So that's the first thing. Number two is to, instead of approaching things as hard work and a struggle and a task, a chore, something we have to do, we can learn to approach things as something which is new and exciting and an opportunity to learn, grow, and explore. For example, rather than saying, oh man, I gotta meditate tomorrow, this sucks, or oh, I have to go exercise, I can't believe I have to do this, or oh, I have to take this thing or do this diet. Rather than getting all caught up in that, learn to approach it more from a child perspective. seeing it as an opportunity to explore, to learn, and to grow, and to do something new, to change things up, and maybe see something that you haven't seen before, experience something that you haven't seen before. Because a lot of times we get so caught up in thinking we know the right way, we know the right thing, we know the thing that must happen and the thing that must not happen. In reality, this is sort of puts us on a tunnel vision, which blocks us from potential greater lesson, wisdom, and insight the universe might be trying to give us in that moment or in that situation.